Officials are preparing for the federal arraignment of Donald Trump in Miami.
He is set to appear before a judge at 3 p.m. this afternoon. We're seeing there his resort in Doral, Florida.
People have started to gather outside of the courthouse ahead of Trump's arrival. Authorities are monitoring social media and online sites for any potential threats of violence surrounding his arraignment.
CBS News Chief National Affairs and Justice Correspondent Jeff Pegues joins us now. Jeff, talk to us about the latest concerns. Is it misinformation? Is it actual threats? What are officials looking into?
Every one of those things. It's, in a situation like this, it's about making sure you stay on top of some of the online threats. But even here outside the courthouse, you have a lot of protesters gathering, and these appear to be not loosely organized, but more of an organized protest. You have chanting, and obviously that's something that law enforcement is going to be watching. But between federal and local law enforcement, they feel like they have this situation under control.
As you've been assessing sort of the buildup there, as you see the protesters start to gather, you mentioned that things seem organized. I'm just wondering, what role do you think Mr. Trump himself has played in gathering the crowd and in some of the misinformation that's been spread?
There's no question, Jim, that he has encouraged his supporters to turn out for him, and that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing that in large numbers. That's why you have law enforcement checking online to see what people are saying online, because when you have a high-profile event like this, especially coming after January 6th, you really have to look for the signs online in terms of what people could be planning. On top of that, here in Miami, you have this area as the purported headquarters of the Proud Boys. Obviously, the Proud Boys were involved in January 6th, have since gotten to trial, many of them. So law enforcement right now taking as many precautions as they can. And again, as I said, the good thing is you seem to have coordination between federal, state, and local. Not only do you have Miami police involved, but Miami-Dade, the county police involved as well, in addition to the Secret Service, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security. So this is a team effort, if you will, keeping Miami safe, keeping the former president safe, keeping the media safe as well. There are many members of the media here. Perhaps, at least when I look behind me, I see more members of the media than I see law enforcement, maybe because it's still early in this process. But again, law enforcement feels like they have this situation under control.
Yeah, we heard from the police chief yesterday. He said we're prepared for 5,000 to 50,000, however many people show up. As you mentioned, the head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, is from Miami, but he's since been convicted. Regardless of how small the crowd size is, talk to us a little bit about, leading up to now, why are authorities concerned? What are those lessons, perhaps, that we learned from January 6th that these authorities need to keep in mind?
Let me just have my forehead, because
it's Miami.
It is pretty hot out here. I'm used to DC heat, which is one thing. Miami heat is something altogether. Even though I lived here 20 years ago, I should know better.
Getting hotter.
But it seems to be getting hotter, and I'm getting older. So, but in terms of what the concerns are, listen, you cannot experience something like January 6th and not make changes. On January 6th, law enforcement was accused of being underprepared. So what we've seen with these events surrounding the former president is that law enforcement tries to over-prepare, and certainly we're seeing signs here that they're trying to take as many precautions as possible. However, we aren't seeing a lot of barricades up around the city. We're seeing police tape. Could that be a problem going forward? We'll have to see.
Better safe than caught off guard. Jeff Pegues, get rid of that jacket. Talk to you soon.
Donald Trump is currently in South Florida at his Trump National Doral Resort.
That is where the former president spent the night and is meeting with lawyers and advisors ahead of his court appearance. That's going to happen in just a few hours. He's set to travel from the resort to the Ferguson courthouse later today, arriving there at around 2 p.m. The whole trip should take, depending on Miami traffic, about 30 minutes.
Our Manuel Bojorquez is outside of the Trump National Doral, following this story for us. Manuel, I'm just wondering if you could start by setting the scene for us. What are you seeing, hearing? What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a very busy street, as you can see from the traffic behind me, but hopefully it'll clear enough to show you that some of the president's supporters have started to arrive just outside of the golf course here, waving their flags in support of the president and in protest of what they call the weaponization of the Department of Justice. We may see more people arrive closer to the time the president is expected to depart from the golf club here and head over to the federal courthouse. There were people here yesterday as well, supporters of the former president, as he arrived from the airport, waving their flags as well. We've heard people on megaphones and people waving flags on this side of the street as well, and people honking as they drive by, whether it's in support or protest, we don't know, but that hopefully paints for you a picture of what we're seeing out here outside of the President's Golf Club in Doral, Florida.
People on megaphones. Manny, tell us something. We know that the former president, has expressed, disdain about the charges. He seems very confident he's going to be fundraising later. He's called the special counsel, the special prosecutor, deranged. But what do we know about those conversations taking place right now inside there with his attorneys?
Well, we know that the president is surrounded by not only his legal team, but also his campaign team. On the legal side, presumably they're determining who will walk into the federal courthouse with him to represent him and possibly the strategy going forward here. But you have to remember there are two things happening here at once. One is the legal side of this. The other is the campaign side of it. The president, former president, not one to shy away from the limelight, even if it's negative publicity, an indictment like this. So you can imagine his campaign team right now is working to figure out how to turn this to their advantage, putting out emails for fundraising, and we are expected to hear from the president when he returns to Bedminster, his golf club in New Jersey, later tonight. So all of these conversations presumably happening in there, how to get all of these details fine-tuned as he tries to spin this as a narrative that is in favor of him. You heard him over the weekend saying, look, if the one thing that this indictment did is actually increase my poll numbers. So that's something they're looking to really put out there, that they view this, yes, as a purely political thing, and his supporters here will echo that, but also that he's the front runner for the GOP, and their eyes are squarely on 2024.
Thank you, Manny.
Oh, now we see police arriving here, pretty large police presence. So an indication that the motorcade may soon be getting underway.
All right, ahead of time. Manny Bojorquez, thank you.